At number 10, we have pork chops. A pork chop, like other meat chops, is a loin cut that's taken from close to the spine of a pig and is usually a rib or a part of the vertebrae. Pork chops are unprocessed and they're pretty much leaner than other cuts of pork, and chops are commonly served as an individual portion. And we know that this is haram because Muslims don't eat pork. Number 9, this comes as a surprise, roasted peanuts. Peanuts that have been roasted, whether in oil or dry, are often roasted in gelatin that is composed of pig hooves. Adding gelatin is used to help the salt and other spices that are added during the roasting to bond with the peanuts for a more flavorful result. They taste really good, by the way, but yeah, be careful if you are traveling to a non-Muslim country or you live outside of a non-Muslim country and you're looking for halal foods. Roasted peanuts may be haram. Just make sure that you read the ingredients before you try to eat some roasted peanuts. Number 8 brings us to cake mix. Now, who doesn't love a good cake? But you see, beef or pork fat are common ingredients in dry box cake mixes, and these are fats often listed on the ingredients list as lard. So to avoid this, they often recommend that you just gotta make cakes at home, or if you're Muslim, check to see if the lard is actually from a pig or if it's from another animal. But again, if it is pig lard, then it is haram. Tortilla wraps, another very surprising one. So most restaurants and homemade versions of tortillas, they're often made with lard again, and store-bought varieties of this don't usually contain lard, but it's still worth taking a look at the ingredients list just to make sure. Another delicious dessert, very popular in my home country, Jamaica. This is rum cake. Now, a rum cake is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's a type of dessert cake which contains rum. Oftentimes it's like soaked in it, but it's soaked to various different degrees depending on how strong you want the rum taste to be. In most of the Caribbean, rum cakes are a traditional holiday season dessert. Traditionally, dried fruit is soaked in rum for months and then added to dough prepared with sugar, which has been caramelized by boiling in water. Wine vinegar comes in at number 5. Wine vinegar is either made from red wine or white wine, and white wine vinegar is a moderately tangy vinegar that French cooks often use to make hollandaise sauces, vinaigrettes, soups, and things like that. And on the other hand, red wine vinegar is widely used in cooking but may have other applications as well. Most often, this is used in salad dressings and other types of marinades. But usually though, the levels of remaining alcohol in red wine vinegar come to no more than 2%. Number 4 leads us to blood sausages, and this goes by many different names like black pudding as well as kazanka. But blood sausage is a delicacy that is enjoyed by food lovers all around the world. It is made the same way as any other sausage, but instead of just containing meat and other spices, it also contains blood. And it usually includes some kind of filler to soak up the blood as well, just so that it doesn't all leak out while you're cooking it. The extra moisture and the flavor from the blood does give the sausage a very distinct taste, so it will taste different from other kinds of sausages because blood is very high in iron, so you'll notice that yeah, there is a difference in taste there. Moving on now to number 3, escargot. Escargot, also known as snails, is a dish consisting of cooked edible land snails. Now they're often served as an hors d'oeuvre and consumed by French people as well as people from Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, and Germany. Now, according to Muslim scholar Ibn Hazm, it's not permissible to eat land snails or any other insects and vermins like cockroaches, ants, and bees, and flies, and mosquitoes, you know, things like that. This, by the way, is based on what the Quran says. It says, forbidden to you for food are al-maita, which refers to dead animals, and unless you're able to slaughter it before its death. This is taken from Surah 5 verses 3. Coming in at number 2 is another very popular food. It is pepperoni. It's very popular topping on pizza. Although there are halal alternatives, this food as it is made originally is haram. Pepperoni is also known as pepperoni sausage, and it's an American variety of salami, and it's usually made from cured pork and beef all mixed up and mashed together. And it is not halal at all when it comes to Islam, because it's a type of meat that is not allowed to be consumed by any Muslims. It comes from pigs. And we're gonna end off this episode with chocolate with alcohol. Chocolates, like certain kinds of truffles chocolate, can contain alcohol, so definitely check before you consume. You can definitely get drunk on liquor chocolates as well, but you will, however, need to consume a lot. A standard shot of alcohol is 30 milliliters, so you would need to eat almost 4 100-gram blocks of chocolate to get 1 shot of liquor. Most people would need to consume more than 700 grams of chocolate to be over the legal blood alcohol limit. So to get quite drunk, most people would need to eat close to 2 kilograms. But either way, guys, if you are of the haram persuasion, definitely stay away from chocolates with alcohol. Yeah, always double check. All right, so let's jump in. Starting at number 10, we have beast with canine teeth and claws. So there's a hadith that comes from Ibn Abbas, and it says that Allah's messenger prohibited to eat every beast of prey that has a canine tooth and every bird that has a claw. And this was reported by Imam Muslim. And speaking of canines, let's specifically get into dogs. See, as for dogs, it's impure to eat them according to the majority of scholars. Also, according to the hadith, Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet Muhammad said these words: "Purifying a container that a dog has licked is done by washing it 7 times." So that's just the dog licking it. It's completely forbidden, so imagine eating it. How much more forbidden that is, if that is such a thing. Either way, dogs, things that dogs lick, prohibited. The next food is ducks who eat impurities. As for the meat of ducks, it's generally not considered haram, but it's frowned upon to eat the meat of a duck that eats impurities. So Muslims have to make sure that they prevent a duck from eating impurities, and then to feed it also with cleaner foods, just so that the duck, if you're planning to eat it, will be considered halal or permissible to eat. Donkeys come in at number 7. Now this reference to donkeys is taken from the hadith, and this hadith was narrated by Abu Thalaba, and it says, Allah's messenger prohibited the meat of donkeys. Plain and simple, pretty straightforward. All right, so we're moving on to number 6 in this episode. All animals that are not slaughtered in Allah's name are prohibited. So animals slaughtered in the name of anyone but God or Allah, or if they have been dedicated or offered and sacrificed to an idol or a saint or another person, they are completely prohibited. It's forbidden. It is haram. Continuing to number 5, carrion. Carrion, which is pretty much carcasses of dead animals that weren't killed by people or pets that were trained for hunting. That is something that Muslims are told to stay away from. That meat is completely haram. Kind of also tying into number 5 is number 4, and this is about animals who violently lost their lives. So an animal that has been strangled or beaten until it passes away, or it dies because it fell from a high cliff or something, or if it was completely savaged by another animal, that meat is considered haram, so Muslims should avoid that. But there is an exception though. Unless the final blow delivered to this animal where it lost its life was delivered by a human being, then it could be permissible or halal. Number 3, blood. Blood is also a big one. Blood is defined as haram, and therefore it's forbidden to Muslims. The Islamic method actually of killing an animal for meat is called zabiha. After the slaughterer recites the blessing that you're supposed to speak over the animal, they use a very sharp surgical knife or some other very sharp instrument to slice the animal's throat, and that way the blood is allowed to drain from the body, so the animal dies in a very, very, very peaceful manner. And the whole point is for all the blood to drain away, because blood contains impurities and therefore Muslims are forbidden to eat it. Pigs come in at number 2. Probably all, even non-Muslims, know this, but this is actually taken from the Quran, Surah 5 verses 3, that says, "Forbidden for you are carrion and blood and flesh of swine, and that which has been slaughtered while proclaiming the name of any other than Allah, and one killed by strangling, and one killed with blunt weapons, and one which died by falling, and that which has been gored by the horns of some animal, and one eaten by a wild beast, except those whom you slaughter, and that which is slaughtered at the altar, and that which is distributed by the throwing of arrows for an omen. This is an act of sin." So that kind of pretty much covered every single type of haram meat that we mentioned in this episode. Well, the main thing you're supposed to get from that is pigs, all form of pork, all form of gelatin that comes from pigs, all of that is haram. Number 1, probably no surprise, is alcohol. This is a big prohibition that exists in the religion of Islam, and as a matter of fact, it stems from the Quran, Surah 5 verses 90, and that goes as follows: "O you who have believed, indeed intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone altars to other than Allah, and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid it that you may be successful." So alcohol is an intoxicant, and this also goes for food that is prepared with alcohol. There's some schools of thought though that say if you have a very slight amount of alcohol that's used to prepare the food where you can't get intoxicated from, then it is halal. But for the most part, generally speaking, all Muslims consider alcohol as haram according to the Quran. So that does it for this episode on the 10 worst haram foods in Islam. I just want to reiterate the points that according to the Quran, the only foods explicitly forbidden are meat from animals that die of themselves, as well as blood, the meat of swine, animals dedicated to anyone other than Allah, or animals that are undedicated, and again, other restrictions that I mentioned in this video. But all vegetarian cuisine is completely halal and allowed for all Muslims. Starting at number 10, we have the food JELL-O. Now this is a very common dessert. Who doesn't like JELL-O, right? It tastes really nice, especially when it's chilled. Kids love it especially. But here's the thing though. It's known that JELL-O contains gelatin, which is a protein derived from the collagen that is found in pig bones, skin, as well as connective tissues. So this tasty little dessert isn't so halal after all. This may come as a surprise. At number 9, red candy. So red candy or strawberry flavored candy, anything red that tastes sweet, pretty much in the candy category. It's often dyed with a food coloring called carmine, and carmine is made from dead crushed up beetles. It's produced when these insects are boiled with sodium carbonate or ammonia, which then produces the bright red dye. Therefore, it's recommended that you see the ingredients list before buying. Also, a thing to note, of the 4 major Sunni Islamic schools of thought, Hanafi schools, they forbid eating all bugs, while the Maliki scholars, they accept them, but the Shafi'i and the Hanbali academics, they completely forbid the consumption of some insects, but others they allow. So it's haram based on the school of thought that you fall in. Next up, Japanese food. Well, if you're worried about following the halal guidelines, then it would be beneficial for you to check the ingredients of food that you're ordering in a restaurant or buying at the store, of course. Many of these Japanese foods, they use soy sauce and it contains alcohol. Other haram ingredients include mirin, and this is a type of rice wine similar to sake, but it has lower alcohol content, but there's still alcohol in it. Instant fried tofu comes in at number 7. Tofu is often used as a meat substitute for vegans and vegetarians. I was vegetarian for about 6 years, and tofu was like my staple food in the diet. Because tofu is a very flexible food. Often though, Chinese brands, they do sell pre-cooked frozen tofu, and that tofu is fried in pork fat in order to retain its crispiness. So regardless of whether you're looking for halal foods as a Muslim, or if you're vegan or vegetarian looking to stay away from animal products altogether, just always double check what is used to prepare your tofu. Number 6 brings us cheese fondue. I'm a person where I love cheese, and we can thank Switzerland for this. So traditional cheese fondue is a Swiss dish that makes use of white wine or alcohol. So with that said, it's a haram food item. Moving on to number 5, we have spirit vinegar. Alcohol and products containing alcohol are just haram in Islam. And even if the alcohol has evaporated in the end, so therefore spirit vinegar is haram. However, if alcohol is not used in making of the vinegar, then it is halal. So it's advised that you check the description of the ingredients before buying it, just to make sure. Marshmallows comes in at number 4. Marshmallows, they are a very popular snack, and you can eat marshmallows just as they are, or you can throw them in your hot chocolate, you can roast them at a campfire and more. But again, just like JELL-O, marshmallows contain gelatin, so they are completely haram. However, vegan marshmallows, they do exist, so you are in luck. You can check them out. Those are fully halal and they're a great substitute for regular marshmallows. One of my favorite desserts comes at number 3, cheesecake. Most cheesecakes contain gelatin as a firming agent to set the cheese, but you can find cheesecakes that do not contain any gelatin though. But if you are unsure, it is recommended that you simply make it yourself, or you have somebody that's a lot more skilled than you in the kitchen make it. I'm very picky when it comes to my cheesecake, so you gotta make it right or else I'm just not eating it. Cake mix is at number 2. Although they can be very affordable and tasty, some ready-made cake mixes, they actually use pork fat. So of course, make sure you check the ingredients list before buying one. And the final surprisingly haram food, salad dressing. Have you ever wondered why there are certain salad dressings that are made in-house at a restaurant and you find that they taste a little bit different than the ones that you can buy in the store or even ones that you make at home? Well, I got the answer to that. It's because many restaurants use bacon fat in their salad dressings. So of course, when you go to a restaurant, you can ask for an ingredients list or just tell them not to put any dressing on your salad whatsoever. Another option is if you take the salad to go, I guess, you can put some olive oil over it, or even just plain olives. They have a great flavor, especially when you use them as a topping for salad.